it took exactly 8 days for Xbox to go from celebrating Ninja Theory on a global stage to reportedly telling the studio it could close. This is about the gap between what Xbox says in public and what happens behind closed doors. On June 7th, Microsoft showed Senua during its Xbox Games Showcase and placed the project inside its 2027 lineup. Viewers saw a trailer, platforms, a release window, and promises of a bigger future. Then, 8 days later, The Verge reported that Ninja Theory workers had been told the studio would close unless another owner stepped in. To be clear, Microsoft has not publicly confirmed that the closure is complete, and another agreement could still save the team. However, the timing alone demands an explanation from Xbox. Why promote a developer as part of the platform's future when its workers may already face the exit? And Ninja Theory is not the only studio caught in this restructuring crosshair. Welcome to Xbox, where the trailer can survive longer than the people expected to finish the game. Senua was not presented as another narrow cinematic experiment. Instead, Ninja Theory described a broader action-adventure with more combat, exploration, puzzles, stealth enemy groups, and boss fights. Those changes directly answered the biggest complaint about Hellblade 2. Many players praised its visuals, acting, sound, and atmosphere, but felt there was too little freedom or actual gameplay. Rather than ignore that criticism, the team changed the formula while keeping the series' psychological focus. Suddenly, Microsoft had a project that looked easier to market and sell to a wider audience. They were finally giving fans more of what they asked for, right as the studio may have been losing its future. Nothing guarantees the game would become a blockbuster, because nobody has played the unfinished project. Still, the developer tried to solve the commercial problem instead of repeating the exact same design. Somehow, that effort may not matter if the owner is already searching for an exit. Making a bigger game required everyone at Ninja Theory to pull together. For the first time in more than a decade, the entire studio went all in on one project. Studio head Dom Matthews said all 85 creatives were working together on Senua. Previously, smaller groups inside the company handled different projects at the same time. Project Mara, its experimental horror title, was cancelled so the full team could focus on Senua. Years of research and development were dropped to support the game Xbox had just revealed. Every department was pointed toward the same release. Afterward, the report arrived that those workers needed a buyer to keep the studio alive. Either Microsoft changed direction late, or it showed the game while the studio's future remained dangerously unclear. Both options undermine the showcase. Honestly, either way, Xbox leadership looks like it does not know what it is doing. Absurdly, the company told 85 people to focus on one target, and then reportedly placed the target on their workplace. But all that focus and hard work does not change the legal reality of who actually holds the keys. Here is the problem. Owning the studio does not automatically mean Microsoft is keeping the game with that same team. Legally, Microsoft owns Ninja Theory, but no public statement explains exactly what a buyer would receive. A sale might include the staff, studio name, technology, contracts, or some rights connected to Senua. Alternatively, Microsoft could keep the game, move development elsewhere, outsource sections, delay it, or cancel it. Frankly, it is a legal mess. If that sounds confusing, that is because it is. From the player's perspective, all that confusion boils down to one scary question. Is the game shown in that trailer still going to be the same game when, or if, it finally releases? Hellblade relies on acting, motion capture, sound design, writing, combat systems, direction, and knowledge built across several years. Another developer could continue the project, but moving it would create costs, delays, and serious creative risks. No company can transfer years of experience by copying files into another folder and scheduling one meeting. Keeping Senua's name would not guarantee that the tone, design, or 2027 release window remained intact. Logos can survive restructuring much more easily than the workers who understand how to finish the product. Xbox designed the showcase to make the platform look stable, active, and worth following. Audiences received release dates, platform promises, new projects, and a carefully arranged picture of a healthier future. Because of that, this report completely shatters the image Xbox had just tried to build. Customers are being asked to trust major announcements without knowing whether the announced teams will survive another month. Developers appear on stage as proof of Xbox creativity, then may become expenses when the cameras turn off. Of course, every publisher changes schedules, cancels projects, and reviews spending. Yet 8 days between a worldwide reveal and a reported closure warning is not a normal adjustment. Publicly, Microsoft could reduce the confusion by explaining whether Senua remains funded, who is making it, and whether 2027 is still realistic. Until that happens, the showcase looks less like a roadmap and more like a list of ideas that could disappear next week. Worse, Xbox has not only created another bad headline. Beyond the immediate drama, the company has made its own marketing harder to believe. Right now, the game is basically in limbo. Today, it has a trailer, a release window, and a developer reportedly facing closure. Otherwise, the trailer becomes an advertisement for a future that leadership may not be willing to finance. Understanding why this feels like such a gut punch means looking back at the promise Microsoft made when it bought the studio in 2018. Back then, Xbox presented the deal as a way to support ambitious creative work without stripping away Ninja Theory's identity. At the time, the studio said Microsoft would provide resources while allowing the team to remain creatively independent. Basically, the promise was simple: more financial safety without losing what made the developer valuable. Now the same studio reportedly needs another owner to avoid closure by the company that offered that protection. Buying studios was easy because every purchase created headlines and made Xbox look larger. Managing those teams required clear goals, patient funding, useful marketing, stable schedules, and realistic measures of success. Just because Microsoft owns these studios does not mean it knows what to do with them. Eventually, a large collection of respected names becomes a problem when leadership cannot explain what success means for each one. Ironically, Microsoft bought the protection plan and may now cancel the people it was supposed to protect. Fairly, great reviews do not always pay the bills. Critics praised both Hellblade games for their visuals, acting, sound, performance work, and treatment of psychosis. Nevertheless, Hellblade 2 was a short cinematic game rather than a huge open world or recurring multiplayer service. Launching through Game Pass also makes its direct financial performance hard for outsiders to measure. Microsoft does not publish a simple number showing how many sales, subscriptions, or returning users one title created. Maybe executives decided that expensive prestige projects no longer deserve support without much larger audiences. Reasonably, that is a possible business explanation, and pretending money does not matter would make this rant dishonest. Even so, Xbox used Hellblade to advertise the quality and variety of Game Pass. Since the game's main job was adding value to a subscription, judging it only like a traditional blockbuster creates a broken standard. Effectively, Xbox placed the product inside a service, kept the full score private, and may punish the studio for failing an unseen test. Ninja Theory might be the headline, but it is not the only Xbox studio reportedly facing a major crossroads. Reports suggest Compulsion Games and Double Fine are also discussing possible separation from Microsoft. Admittedly, those talks do not prove that every unusual Xbox project is doomed. Taken together, they do suggest that Microsoft is reviewing the size and structure of its entire studio network. Smaller teams making unusual single-player games may be exposed because their income is less predictable than annual franchises. Awards and strong reviews help the Xbox brand, but steady sales and repeated spending offer better protection during budget cuts. Bluntly, the message to developers is simple: creativity can earn praise, while predictable revenue keeps the lights on. Players receive another warning because supporting an Xbox series does not guarantee that its original creators will remain attached. Meanwhile, workers must continue promoting games while private talks may decide who owns their workplace next. Across Xbox, affected teams appear to have two projects now: the game shown publicly and the escape plan discussed privately. Trust was already damaged long before the Ninja Theory report appeared. Earlier, Microsoft closed Tango Gameworks and Arcane Austin in 2024 during a wider round of cuts. Tango's closure caused particular anger because Hi-Fi Rush had earned strong reviews and public praise from Xbox leaders. Krafton later bought Tango and the Hi-Fi Rush rights, showing that another company still saw value there. Arcane Austin's end also raised questions about how Microsoft handled teams acquired through its Bethesda purchase. None of those cases is identical to Ninja Theory, and treating them as exact copies would be lazy. Together, they explain why fans no longer accept speeches about empowering studios without asking what happens after launch. Repeated closures turn every celebration into a temporary event because praise clearly does not guarantee survival. Presently, Ninja Theory feels especially damaging because the gap between promotion and reported danger was only 8 days. Increasingly, Xbox produces restructuring stories with more consistency than it produces confidence. Finally, the facts must remain clear. Officially, Microsoft has not announced a completed Ninja Theory shutdown, and a buyer or another deal could still save the studio. Likewise, no public statement has explained whether Senua continues unchanged, moves elsewhere, slips beyond 2027, or disappears. Nobody should direct anger at the 85 workers who built what Xbox proudly showed. Leadership controlled the acquisition, budgets, showcase, release plan, and communication surrounding the studio. Fans therefore have every reason to demand a direct explanation before treating the next Xbox trailer as a dependable promise. Specifically, Microsoft needs to say whether negotiations are active, whether development remains funded, whether staff are still assigned to Senua, and whether 2027 is a real target. Without those answers, every future showcase carries the same ugly doubt. Incredibly, Xbox announced Senua, collected the applause, and then reportedly prepared to close the team expected to make it. Ultimately, the strangest part of the trailer is not Senua fighting monsters. Worst of all, Microsoft is asking viewers to believe that any of this was part of a plan.